Hello world. On this episode of Kicked in the Junk, I have a great discussion with Deryk about how he fell into the trap of alcoholism, drugs, and even gambling. During our talk, we go into details of what that recovery process looked like and strategies of how he was able to move past this and wisdom we learned from this and able now to pass on to others to help them avoid the trap that he fell into. So I hope you enjoy this podcast. I know I really did. And it was amazing just to have another guy to be able to just open up, because I do find as men, there's, a lot of women are wanting to open up to share their story, which is amazing. But there's not a lot of men wanting to do it. So it was so great to have a guy to be able to come forward and do this and just be vulnerable, but also show like how strong and how much better of a person he is now from this. So such a great podcast. I'm super excited to share it. If you're at a point in your life right now where you are needing some direction or you have a place you want to be and you're not sure how to get there, I'd encourage you to reach out to lifepurposely.ca. We'd love to help you out and offer you a free 30-minute discovery call. I'd also like to offer you our 8-week workshop, meditation workshop that's starting next Thursday. I'm super excited about this because it's something I developed, and I've been practicing meditation for the past 5 years. It's radically changed my life and helped me become the best version of myself, which we actually talk about in the podcast today, and helped me to be able to visualize and set goals for my life that I've able to achieve, which is super amazing. So I want to share this with you because it's something that just I'm so passionate about. Again, it's 8 weeks, no charge. It's online, 30 minutes once a week, and there'll be homework. So you can go to lifepurposely.ca to sign up for that. And I hope to see you there. And without further ado, here's the rest of the podcast. Perfect. Well, thanks, Deryk, for being here on the show. I really appreciate you coming out. Like I said, I met you through a buddy of ours, Dexter. Quite the character, the guy that actually sparked me to do this podcast. So
yeah, great dude.
Great dude. Yeah, it's funny how things work and things line up. Just happened to be even funnier that you said before, you mentioned that he end up being in the same small town as you were, and that's what got you here. So
yeah, it's pretty funny to wake up in the morning, on days off and look across and see Dexter's Jeep. Holy, we're right across the road from each other. So it's been nice, been able to chat with him a little bit, and he definitely got me on here. So
perfect.
Happy to be here.
And like you said, you guys worked at rig together for 8 months.
Yeah, we've been doing some pipeline stuff up in Chetwynd, kind of Fort St. John area for probably the last two and a half years, give or take. I've been with Dexter for about the last 8-9 months or so, whatever it has been. So it's been a good time.
Absolutely. And it's funny because, again, I always hear the pipeline stories, but this is just from one perspective of Dexter's, and Dexter's just all that he is a range of a person. So it's interesting to hear, like I said, kind of going to your side, but more so the downsides that come with pipelining, or these risks that come with pipelining, not just physical risks, but the lifestyle risks. Because I hear about it a lot with him about, how, and people that live in town know, guys from pipeline come, well, they want to party, drugs, this sort of thing, gambling. So, and that's what we're here to talk about today is, I have some dogs on the show.
Absolutely.
And then we talk about today is drugs, gambling, the addiction there. And unfortunately, I know you're not the only one in this.
Nope.
Everybody knows probably 2 or 3 people. So I think it's really cool that you're able to talk about it now and discuss it. So maybe do you want to share a little bit about how your journey started with, let's say, the alcoholism and
absolutely,
the addictions there.
Touch base quickly before I forget about just the pipeline. Like you're absolutely right with that lifestyle. It's very tough, and you can lean on crutches and stuff, right? Especially if you have that addiction, personality or whatever. So it's tough for sure, and just being away from family, friends, support,
right?
All of that stuff, and just being out with a group of people that you not necessarily know and you spend a lot of time with. So definitely important to keep your mental health up, stay positive, try not to lean on those crutches, but it's obviously very hard. So
yeah, absolutely. So when did it all start for you then?
For me, it goes back to my teenage days, back when you don't think anything of it, right? So I'm probably about 17, I'd say, when I first started getting into drinking.
Like
in high school a little bit. Yeah, probably like most people anyways. it wasn't like, it didn't seem like much, right, in the beginning, and the first few years weren't. They were lots of fun. Family, people, everybody drinks. It's a social thing, right? So
Very
and
acceptable.
a lot of people around where I grew up in my family, everybody kind of did it. It was acceptable, and so I kind of did it a lot as well. And as the years went on, I think I became dependent on it. Started leaning on these things a little bit more, right?
Right.
I didn't see myself going out in much social situations without drinking. Like I always had to drink, or do drugs or whatever. And it was drinking for the longest time, obviously. And so the first few years, terrible. And then, the last few years of the drinking and stuff, which led me to getting treatment and going for help. So,
wow. Okay. So, what do you think started? I mean, like you said, it was, we all know drinking is such a social thing.
Yep.
And it's such a two-edged sword because, you can, nothing wrong with having a drink and just help people relax sometime. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but everything in moderation. But then you can go the other side where it is this crutch. So, what do you think led you to using that as a crutch, other than just the social aspect? Was it the fact that you were pipelining and there was, the lack of connection maybe, or the hard environment?
For me, there's been none of the alcohol or drugs with pipelining. I just started pipelining just 3 years ago.
Okay.
So there was a little bit of gambling in the end of that, kind of near my crutch there. But for me, the alcohol and drugs started, like I said earlier, I'm from Ontario. Yeah. Growing up there, just friends, I think, hockey, just, doing it a lot. I'm kind of thinking, obviously, at some point, I think I just depended on it more, to be a person that I really wasn't, right? I became a lot more, outgoing and all these things with the alcohol, right? And all this courage to talk to everyone, to do these, to become, which don't get me wrong, I'm, an outgoing, confident person, but back then I was in such a guilty, shame, depressed state that I wasn't, so I leaned on the alcohol to kind of put on a face. You put that, everything's happy, everything's good, my life's great, I'm out having a good time, I'm drinking and, I'm yelling, I'm woo, whatever. Yeah. But that's not the case when you go home.
Right.
You go sit in it by yourself. It's not fun.
No, and I love that you said that, because I think that's where the biggest misconception with alcohol and all these things, and even just the whole having a good time thing, is that you're putting on this mask. Yeah. Of this is who I am. I want people to see me as. When I think you just said it, it's which I thought was super interesting, is you realize that now it's you can be that person without it. Oh, absolutely. It's just, it gives you that little bit of courage, especially early on, maybe when you don't have the self-confidence. And I know for years, I suffered, lack of self-confidence. I know it hurt me in sports and relationships and a lot of things. And you're not the only one. Obviously, I'm not the only one either. But, for sure. And not just women, but men too. Because absolutely. I think, either call it social media, call it whatever, we are influenced by all these other things that are setting this bar to be, that you have to be here. Yeah. And in reality, it doesn't make any sense. You can't be that all the time. No, right? For sure. So you were drinking, started getting drugs. Yeah, so probably from, I'd say 17-ish to 28, so a decade, good 10 years of the drinking and the partying, just playing hockey, drugs, alcohol, women, gambling, just all those things for years and years. And like I said, the first few years is okay, but those last few years, 4 or 5 years, the problems, the fights, the chaos, the depression, the guilt, the shame, everything that came with it was just not obviously it led me to a breaking point. I was going to counseling through my work. Okay. Ironically, I worked at the beer store. But anyway, so I went to counseling there, and for years, you're always pointing fingers. I was kind of pointing fingers at my family. Yeah. My dad is an alcoholic, he's, thank goodness, almost 8 years sober now, I think. Good for him. Yeah. But anyway, so, and then my mom and all the things they're going through and their fight, so blaming people, right? Just always. And then that day in that counseling office with that woman, I broke. Yeah. And I was like, it's me. Good for you. It's me. If I don't do anything, my life's going this way. I just literally broke. It was
that was definitely a point I remember, like breaking down in her office and saying I need help, and she like set up, but with my work and her, because I was going through my work, to have me go within like 2 days. Set up. My parents didn't know nothing, my family, nobody, and it was like to come home and tell them. I think I extended it to like the Monday or something, so I could like have my weekend with my family and stuff. Maybe a couple last ones and whatnot. So, but no, and then that led me to treatment and recovery.
Wow. And you know what? It's funny because I started smiling when you said that you broke because it was, and when you realized it was you. And this is something that I've heard before, and I always reiterate on the show, is that wherever you point the blame, you give the power. So if it's your fault, that means you're giving them your power. Yeah. So I was going to ask, how did it feel? Because I've been there before. I've pointed blame. I know that in relationships, in jobs and stuff, and I've pointed blame. But I also know that when I did say it was my fault, there is that moment of low and like, oh man, I did this. Yeah. But the part that people, I think we sometimes forget, is like that pendulum swings from being that really low and guilt to this sense of power and strength, because now you're like, wait a minute, I have the power. Yeah. Did you have that moment? You know, maybe not then, but did that moment come after?
I think for sure, because like, I mean, leading into like wanting help and everything, like you said, it's hard. But then again, you realize that it takes courage to ask for help, right? Yes. And it's like, now you, like you said, it's like, that is me. It's me. I chose this, right? I chose this for myself. And at the end of the day, like, you have to choose you, and you have to do the things that's best for you in life. Like, there was no one else gonna lead me, push me. It didn't matter if it was my parents saying you're drinking, you know, anyone, someone I loved, cared, whatever, friends, like, they weren't, it's always me or you, right? Yes. Like, you have to make that decision. So yeah, it makes sense to like kind of pass that power back to yourself.
Yeah.
So that's a good one.
Absolutely. So to kind of just back up a little bit, let's maybe talk about the low. Like, and I've been there. I mean, I've talked about some of the lows in my life. I know I've had moments in my life, you know, my past relationship, being frustrated to the point where I know I've never shared this, but I was so frustrated with things and how things were going that I was literally headbutting a 2x4 in our house over and over because I was so frustrated with myself. Yeah. And mad at myself. So I've been to that low. Yeah. And I have had my breaking moments. So maybe let's kind of, what was your lowest?
For like with the alcohol and drugs, I'd have to say the constant like fighting, and I think it just became like so routine, right? And it was a lot to do with like relationships, like my partner, right? So you know, you're just chaos all the time, but you're just fighting and like it's a tough one for sure.
Yeah. Absolutely. So you said the fighting, because I was in bad relationships, and I do know when you're stressed. Yeah. Anybody's stressed, and we become the worst versions of ourselves. Yeah. And it's hard to look at that now and accept that, but that you know, I was the worst version of myself during those times. Yeah. So to look back at that, looking back at that now, how'd that feel? And are you able to look back at that now with a little bit of grace for yourself and a little bit of love?
Oh, for sure. Definitely. And I mean, like, for my low points, like you mentioned before with alcohol, there was just so many, right? Okay. Obviously, with, like I said, mentioned with the fighting and the breaking and leading to some arrests, some trouble. Wow. You know, I was arrested when I was about 19 or 20. You know, had to go through some tough times with that.
Yeah, and you're not the only one.
No, for sure. And that,
there's lots of people.
I think that the alcohol, like I said, so far back for me now. Like, I'm coming up to almost 10 years, but that moment, being 19, 20, like being arrested and sitting in the jail cell, and I kind of now that you mentioned, like, this is, I think, going back to that question about the lowest point, and I think that would be it, or one of them for sure. Yeah, was sitting. I haven't really obviously told a lot of people this, but sitting behind the glass talking to your family. Oh, just breaks your one of the hardest things I've ever done. And you know, thinking about it right now, I'm like, wow, I remember how tough that was. It's pretty vivid in my mind right now, thinking back to it. So it's crazy. And then when you talk about like the being like, what was it, a bad person or like a bad version of yourself, or the worst version of yourself? Sorry. So for me, just recent, or as most recent with gambling for me, that has some pretty bad points for me, where I was in like in a relationship with a partner and just lying to her to cover my gambling, and it got so bad too, where I'm like telling her I'm going to a Gamblers Anonymous meeting, and I'm going to the casino, and I got to come home and tell this woman that I am living with and care about, and you know that I'm and that to me, that's looking back now, is one of the lowest versions I've been, because that is not the person I want to be, strive to be, or am. You know, like all the stuff I've been through have made me a better person today, but that is a bad version of myself for sure.
Yeah, and this is the toughest part, because again, I've been there, been the version of myself, because I'm a dad. I have 2 kids. They're 10 and 12 right now. Yeah, and I remember early on, especially I'd come home, I was so stressed from work and this, I'd come home and they'd want to hang out, and I'd just be ignoring because I'm on my phone, or just trying to like disconnect from life. Yeah. So I get the worst version of yourself. The tough part, I think, with that is recognizing is that isn't you, or that's not who you can be, a range of person, and that is just the bad version. But you can also be this version, and then not anchoring yourself to that bad person. And it's I say it's funny because it's so easy to be like, oh well, this guy did this and this person did this, and judge, point fingers, whatever. But when you're in that scenario, you don't realize, I've been there and you've been there clearly. It's like, not only are you going through all this shit, but then you feel so awful. I know I felt awful because you're lying and you're doing these things, and you're, and you don't, in your gut, you don't want to do that, but you're just trying to be happy, just trying to get something to make you be excited. Yeah. So I understand that. That's a tough one. And I appreciate you sharing, because that's, they said so many people, I think, we put on these masks.
Oh, for sure. Right?
We put on this look that we want people to see us. But when you start pulling that back and realize, like, hey, we're all actually can be really fucking shitty. Yeah. But we can also be really fucking awesome. Yeah. It's just, who do you want to be? And who do you choose? Yeah. So, diving that, you said you did eventually reach out.
Yeah. Yeah. Good for you. For the alcohol, drugs, so back in, it'd be like June 24th, 2013 was the first day of recovery for me. Yeah. So like I'll be coming up to the 10 years. I haven't had a sip of alcohol since then, which is obviously something I'm super proud of.
Yeah, that's amazing. Good for you.
Now I have had some fights with the other ones. I did have a relapse with drugs, and then obviously the gambling crutch has been there just forever, up until just maybe 2020 or something, just a couple of years ago, where I finally got out of that, which and I'm not out of it, right? It's disease of addiction. It's one day at a time, and I'll still be fighting everything one day at a time, the alcohol, all of it, right? It's just something that I live with, and I've came to find ways to live better, which has been filling your day with I'll call it an addiction, because that's kind of what it is. But like the gym, right? I'll get an addiction to the gym, or rollerblading. There's good addictions for sure. Eating something, or whatever there is, healthy addictions, exactly. And, or habits, being a better person. Whatever you want to call it. But
you name it. People, I think it's a great thing, and I think the biggest thing there is its purpose. Yeah. It's okay. Because with gambling, it's like, I'm trying to make money or whatever it is. The rush, me and Dex have talked about this before, the rush of it. And so like, I get the rush. Oh yeah. I'm addicted to playing football. I love football so much, but I'm addicted to one when I play. I feel free. Yep. But I'm in an environment where it's positive. Yeah. Sometimes I get a bruise. Oh yeah. I take a licking here and there every once in a while. And
sports are great though.
Yeah. But it's an avenue where I can put my energy and attention and have purpose. Yeah. And I think more people need stuff like that. Like you said, gym, sports.
Absolutely.
Putting your energy back into yourself, learning, growing. Yep. Doing stuff like this where you're sharing your story, because a lot of people need that. And I like what you said before, because I've heard this from Eddie Milet. His dad was an alcoholic, and he promised Eddie at the time, there's a story about, essentially, it's like, I can't promise I'll never drink alcohol again, but I can promise I won't today. Yeah. Yeah. And I love that approach, because it is like, how can you control? You can't control things. I mean, yes, just really though, we can control now, our attitude and effort, the moment. Yep. And I won't today. Yeah. And I love that. Yeah. And even with with any addiction, anything, it's like, I won't today. Yeah, for sure. It's just that one more thing.
Because you always have that disease of addiction, right? There's
always something there.
For sure. So totally. People relapse after 20 years, man. Like it's definitely something you got to take like one day at a time, like they say. So
yeah. And so I was going to ask you, 10 years, and now you're moving past all these things. How did you find that doing that, hitting those milestones, helped with your confidence?
Good question, because like I said before, how I was leaning on like the alcohol for confidence, going out or social situations or whatever all the time. My first year of sobriety was just incredible. Like,
really
incredible. The confidence, like they say to be careful of that, because I think they mentioned like a pink cloud or something, right? You're riding this high early.
Yeah.
And I kind of was, but I got myself into those good habits. I was going to the gym.
Mm-hmm.
I was taking care of myself, I was just like concentrating on self-care and just putting myself first, and like saying no to people and just all these things. It felt so good. And I had a great support system. I was super lucky. My mom, dad, sister, friends, family, people around me, very supportive. I even had like a 2-year party where everyone was at, and like we had awesome. Celebrated it. So it was great. The first year or two is I find that first year is great, because you get recognized more each month. You get your chip for 1 month, 2 months. So you get that recognition, and people are pushing you, encouraging you. Then after that year, it kind of slows down, right? So then there's that little bit of like, it becomes on you, right? It's not, you're not getting as much, so it gets harder a little bit. But I felt after getting through that like kind of second year, that little gap of not having as much of like, oh, good job, happy 10 months, because that helps. Totally. So after that, it was, what helped me was talking about it. Right.
And that was going to be my next question, is did you find the more you talked about it, the easier it was to overcome, not just the drinking, but the recreational drugs, gambling.
Yeah. All of it, everything, becoming open. That's what helps. And I mean, that's what I think people in the meetings and in AA, they help each other, right? And you keep going. And then when you help someone, it just feels so good. How can you not help yourself while you're helping someone? So that's just so good. And like, it's a good feeling.
Absolutely. I mean, you know what? I've heard this before, and I love saying it, is the reason to living is giving. And when you take the focus from me and turn it to we, all of a sudden you have purpose now, right? So you're putting that energy to purpose in others, and doing so fills your soul. Right? And I don't know about you, but anybody I know that has purpose and their soul is filled, they're some of the greatest people to be around.
For sure.
Right? Like, I mean, the people, you can kind of think, check them off the list and who they are. And it's because they're not sitting there pointing fingers, they're not upset, angry, whatever, but it's just they're so focused on their purpose. Right? And that's what I love. And to even add on to that, I could watch your body language when you were talking about, your recovery, and it was this, and it was like, you're excited about it because it clearly changed your life. And I absolutely love that, because again, so many people need that. So many people need to realize that we said the ownership. That they need support, asking for help. And that taking that ownership and making these changes on the other side can be really exciting. Right? So for sure. To share one of mine, I mean, I've had a few moments in my life that were, again, I didn't, thankfully it was never drugs, but I mean, I've been addicted to porn. I've never actually admitted that openly, but I've been addicted to porn because it's such an easy access. And
for sure.
Right? And it's kind of this like, oh, well, guys do it, whatever. But, few things for me, it was, I know for sure it was, one, focusing on what I was grateful for every day. That was a game changer.
Gratitude.
I would write them down 3 or 4 every day.
Oh, nice.
Right? Meditating every day. Right? Putting that emphasis just one on myself, and like you said, when you're excited there, and I love it, is that you're putting all your energy going back into you. Filling up your cup. Right? So now you're fired up. Now you can fill up others' cups.
Oh, for sure. That's a good point.
Like you said, you've had those lows. You're moving past that. The gambling, you're moving past that now. What sort of nuggets of wisdom did you learn along the way?
I mean, obviously, just to ask for help is huge. And not only like if you're not asking for help, you're not just taking that opportunity from yourself to get help, but you're taking an opportunity from someone else to help. Right? And that's...
you know what? I'm going to applaud you. I've never heard that way before. I love that.
Yeah, no, and I've heard that so before, and something that really touched home with me too, right? And it's just just the same, like you got to love yourself before you love others, or whatever it is, right? And all those things. So
Wow,
Yeah.
that's super good. And I've heard of, it's kind of like the giving thing I've heard before,
Yep.
where it's it takes two people to give.
Yep.
Me to give and you to receive.
Yep.
Right, and they both feel good.
For sure.
So yeah, what an amazing thing! Like I said, that you're right, that reaching out for help is not just for yourself, but other people too. Because now, doing this, that's reinforcing. Doing this podcast, for example, reinforcing you in the life and you're in.
Yeah.
Not only that, now you're reaching 10, 15, 20, 100, 200, 300 people, and reinforcing them to do the same thing. And especially now with today's technology, it's wild that you can do that.
Yeah, that's great.
So amazing. So it saves you a lot of time. I guess I was going to ask is there other moments during this path that you said you stumbled? And then what were your tools that you've kind of used that were yours to get you back on track?
That's a good question, because definitely stumbled there.
Yeah, and we all do.
Yeah, for sure. I was lucky enough when I did stumble to actually get back into recovery. And go to treatment a second time.
Yeah.
And that was guided towards drugs and gambling.
Right. Yeah.
And even when I was in there, I was gambling. That was my crutch. It's just been my crutch for too long, right?
Yeah.
So, sorry, what was the...
Sorry, so what tools?
Yeah, sorry. So filling my routine again, right? So that's obviously with recovery and treatment, that's what they do. You're up early, you're doing tasks, you're eating, you're doing your chores, you're doing something activity-wise. So for me, it's just routine, Obviously, I think that's what I love the most about pipelining, which is crazy because I'm doing pipelining now where I have the tools to fight the things day by day, right? So now I'm out there with, long hours. I get up early, I feel productive. I feel like I'm, a part of society. I have more of a purpose when I'm out there. And I work 12 or 13 hour days and I head to the gym afterwards. And it's just a proud day. You go home, you're just whooped, you're tired. Yeah. And to do that over and over, I love the routine of it. And then, you're rewarded, it pays well. You get some time off, you can spend time with family, stuff like that. Right now I'm on kind of days off, which is nice. Yeah. Usually out golfing or whatever and putting,
perfect.
Yeah. Having routine, right? So whether it's rollerblading, gym, golf, just something filling my day a bit, right? So I don't get into those bad places thinking about trust me, I've thought about gambling. I've been sitting here watching that. Like I said, I can't really do much lately, but I've been sitting watching NHL playoffs. Yeah. Every commercial they talk about gambling. That's all it is.
It's amped up this year to a whole new level. And
crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. But like you said, I love that you said that, because I think sometimes I know myself and other people sometimes go, like you said with the alcoholism, oh, you're a year. Well, you're done. And you laugh at it because it's like those demons are there. Yeah. But that's what I said before, that version of you. Yeah. You can be this version, but you're putting all your energy into being the best version of you. Yeah. And those things don't just magically disappear. Yeah, there's ways and techniques, and the more you put energy into this, the smaller they become. Yeah. But they're still there. Yeah. So is there any mental, let's call them like Jedi mind tricks that you use for yourself when you have those moments? Like you said, you're watching the game. What are some of these little tricks you've done that go, you know what? I'm feeling that thought in my head. How do I... For
me, it's just trying to go back to thinking of those low moments, right? Because I know that even though it's one day gambling or one drink, and maybe you're good that one time, maybe, who knows? You could be for a month, who knows? But it's going to lead back to where I was before. And that's what keeps me, I think, from grabbing that first drink or, walking into that casino or whatever, is because I felt those lows. I've been in those low spots and I don't want to be, like you said, I want to put my energy into a better version of myself. So, yeah.
And you know what? I love that because it's so easy. It's easy as in to remember to do that. Yeah. Because that low moment, and I've had them, and a lot of people have had them, are vivid.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Right, and so then maybe that, I like that because now it's holding, it's not necessarily holding on to it with or maybe you do hold on to the guilt, shame. I guess maybe that's something for you to go like, yeah, that was bad. I remember all those negative emotions. Yeah. I don't want that, so I'm going to move towards this, and that is the human nature. Is we're going to move towards. We'd rather as humans move towards. Move away from pain than towards pleasure. Yeah. So maybe that is the key there.
Yeah. And one thing I want to touch base on is one of your recovery steps is writing like a moral inventory and then like expressing it to a person.
Yeah.
Which is step 5, but
Yeah.
step 4 is you're writing your whole moral inventory, and that's where you get to let it go. You get to write down, and then you speak, right? So for me, I'm not writing a whole 100 pages of all my stuff because there's so much, right, at that point.
Yes, yeah.
So I point
Big
formed
points.
a lot of it, big ones, and then I spoke for an hour and a half in this room and just, you know, breaking down in tears, freaking saying everything I'd done. You get it all out. It's all, you know, that's what you do. The relief I felt and the high in this, I honestly can't, it's hard to even explain the feeling I felt. I had to go to the volleyball. It was one of our activities that day afterwards. And I was like on the court, just like watching the ball go around.
And just
which is like the opposite of me. I just felt like all this weight was off me though. Like I wasn't jumping around looking, kind of trying to get the ball. I was just like in this, it's hard to explain.
You know what? And I haven't had that, but I have had a moment. I've shared this before, but we're doing counseling.
Yep.
And it was actually somatic therapy where you just lied. Essentially, we just talked a little bit about what we want to work on. I lied there for a bit. She put her hand underneath my back and just taught me, you know, hey, think about this, think about that.
Yeah.
And not moments or memories, just my body.
Yeah. Oh yeah. To be in.
And then out of nowhere, I had this breakdown where I was literally bawling for an hour, like this hard, deep cry. I've never cried like that in my life, so I don't know if I've had the same, but I've had that.
That's a good release.
Yeah, and the weird part was I started noticing was food tasted better. I noticed more around me in my environment.
Nice.
I was way more calm.
Yeah.
I've started remembering names better, numbers better.
Yeah.
Like certain things, I was able to take in more information. I think it's because I wasn't so caught up in the past.
Yeah.
Or all this stress.
Yeah.
So I can understand. I can kind of get an idea of that. So what a beautiful thing. So to give a 30 seconds on what that moment felt like, and then maybe encouragement for others.
Yeah, I mean the moment just was insane with like the weight off of you, right?
Yeah.
You just start holding on to that guilt and shame because it's like, yes, you did it. You know, yes, maybe you were a bad version of yourself, or maybe you did bad things, or you were a bad person for a little bit, but that doesn't make you who you are, right? At the end of the day, like we are talking about, you're striving to be the best version of yourself. So talking about those bad ones and letting it out, getting it out there and leaving it all behind. Like some people just write it all out, light the letter on fire, whatever. People, you know, get it out whatever way you can. But get it out, move on, move forward.
Yeah.
Right. So I would say like just that is huge. And then moving forward, obviously, like just sticking with your mindset, staying positive, whether you need, you know, meditation, you know, the gym, yoga, whatever, things that you need to fill your day with that are, you know, healthy and good for you.
And building you.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. And, you know, I have a good analogy for that, you know, because I know a lot of us, people get stuck in the past. I've been there before where I'm like, oh my God, I was such an idiot and, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
But a good analogy I was given was like, imagine, you know, if I gave you $100, it's worth $100, right?
Yeah.
What if I took that $100 and crumpled it up? Is it still worth $100? You'd still take it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
What if I put it in the dirt? Maybe even rubbed it in some dog shit.
Yeah.
You'd probably be like, wash it, but it's $100.
Yeah.
It still has value no matter what shit you put it through. It's still, as long as that bill's together,
For sure.
it has value.
Yeah.
Just like you as a person, just like me as a person, just like anybody out there that has done some dumb shit.
Yeah.
They still have value.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of now, do you want to change that?
Yeah.
Right? So something, you know, just to kind of add to that. And then like you said there, did you, to go back to this release moment, because I know a lot of guys, and I've been there before. Grew up playing sports.
Yep.
There's 8 of us in my family, 6 brothers, very competitive.
Oh, I bet.
Very, you know, who's the bigger man. And I've always been in the middle, so I'm all about like competing.
Yep.
I'm going to try to be better than you. I'm going to, you know, that's the kind of personality I have sometimes.
Yeah.
And can be. Did you feel that you were, because I know some people kind of go, well, that's not manly. Did you feel like after that, you're like, oh, that was manly and ashamed of it? Or was it just like, man, I'm, you know, wow, how did that?
No, it felt so good to do. You know, it's just, yeah, I don't know. You mean we're men, but we have emotions. Like, can't we be in tuned with our emotions?
Yes.
You know what I mean? So like for me to feel it and to go through it was good for me.
Did you feel like it made you more masculine after?
I think, I don't know about masculine, maybe.
No.
I mean, now maybe I feel I'm super confident. I feel great. I love knowing that I go out and do all this fun, exciting stuff. I still go to the bars, I dance, I do whatever, and I don't drink. I don't need any of it. That feels good. That's, that's confidence for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know if masculine or not, but yeah, it's definitely feels good to do.
Totally. And this is kind of the point I was getting at was like, one, it isn't this, like you said, we have emotions.
Yeah.
They need to come out and we need to feel them.
For sure.
And I think you said there, and I could tell because of how you said your body language, your tone is like, you're getting excited because you realize like that doesn't, just because I have those, because of that release.
Yeah.
I feel like it almost made you can access your masculine more now. Because you're going into it now with love, and not out of this like, oh, I'm angry, I'm ashamed, I'm angry, despair. But now it's like, hey, I'm excited, I can do all these things, I have direction, and I can do it 100% because these things here aren't holding me back anymore, right? And on the positive as well, you are being the range of humans that we are. We all have masculine and feminine qualities. And to be able to sometimes dip into those is good because there's times when you need on the pipeline. You need direction. You need to be tough. There's certain things you need. There's other times, you're at a wedding, you're with your girlfriend, whoever, a partner. Sometimes, if they're feeling something, you don't need to be masculine. Now you need to just be there with them and feel. Yeah. Right. And that's good.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's okay. So I guess to kind of wrap this up, if someone else right now is out there and they're listening to this going, man, I'm at that point, but I don't know what to do, or maybe I've fallen a few times. Maybe I have taken some steps and I've fallen a few times. What would you say to them?
To stay positive for sure, right? Always just stay up. But I mean, there's ways to help yourself, right? Mm-hmm. So whether that's reaching out for help, there's so many things out there, so many tools for us. I think I'm when you were talking about like the value with the $100 bill and whether it's in the dirt or clean and crisp, whatever, that kind of leads to environment, right? So when you mentioned like the value of it, and it's like the story with the bottle of water, right? Yeah. Depends on the environment. It could be 50 cents or it could be an $8 bottle of water, right? Depends on where you are. So I think for sure in the early stages, changing your environment is definitely important.
Okay.
Yeah, your surroundings. Like if you're always going to the bar and hanging out with the same people and doing these things, and then you just want to dive right back into that, it's going to be way harder. Way harder to do. Where if you just give yourself that time, that space, work on yourself, that self-care, the real people and friends in your life will still be there. They always will,
Yeah. And you know what? That's what we need. We need more real people in our lives. My wife talks about this before, and this is why I've been friends with Dexter for so long. But you need, as much as his personality is crazy.
Oh, yeah.
It's like you need real people.
He's a great dude, yeah.
And that'll shoot from the hip.
Yeah.
No bullshit. Just tell you like, hey, man, you need to do this, and this is why. Or, hey, you're being an asshat, and this is why. Or whatever, but you need real people.
You do. And, growing up in London, I look back, when in those party days, I had tons of friends, but when I look back, they weren't all friends. Yeah. They were all just acquaintances or friends of friends or people that were kind of just partying at the same time I was partying. So we all just had, you had this big group, but how many of them did you have heart-to-hearts with, right? How many guys do I had going back? I have all these friends back home, like not many of them that I had all these with. Yeah, and then I'm like, out here I'm meeting people that I'm having heart-to-hearts with and building great friendships as well. And I still have lots of that back home, but it's huge to build that and to have a good person in your life that is gonna tell you when you're screwing up or you might need to wake up or whatever. It's good to have a person like that in your life for sure.
Absolutely. And so just to recap, I think like you said is, so your favorite or your kind of go-tos for tripping and when you're kind of stumbling through some stuff is, you said gym.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Meditation, is that something you're practicing or is that
meditation for me has always been hard? I go back and forth with it. I think I've leaned more on like just like my manifestation with good thoughts. I do a lot of like thoughts and we all, we have millions of them, but I try to just keep them positive and keep them going. Right. Yeah. But with, I don't know, meditation's been hard for me. I don't know. It's been hard to relax, but do I sit, quietly and think of stuff sometimes? For sure. Absolutely. Yeah. It's just really hard to meditate, I think, for me, but it's not something I don't like just disregard. It's
Totally.
definitely an important thing, but it's been hard for sure.
Awesome. No, that's, you know what, I'm so glad, like you said, you shared, because like you said, and I know people need to hear this, because there is, like you said, drinking, drugs, and gambling, super common in pipeline life.
Oh, for sure.
But not only that, just in certain towns, super common.
Yeah.
Not to mention, what about other, there's lots of there's tons of addictions out there. We get addicted to food, we get addicted to social media, we get addicted to, porn, gambling, whatever, you name it. Like, there's so many. So that's why I love this, is because these can apply to any addiction.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? And then I think the theme comes back to self.
Yep.
Putting that energy into yourself. And I would encourage you to start meditating, because I know that was something that changed my life.
Yeah.
And for me, it was like, I said, 2 minutes was tough.
Yeah.
I'd be like, 5 minutes? Are you bloody kidding me?
Yeah.
And now me and my wife will do 2 a day, and sometimes I'm like, 35 minutes? That was it?
Yeah.
But it's because
the practice.
And you become, just bring it back to your body and yourself.
Yep.
And you learn to be still.
Yeah.
And the cool part about that, and because I know people, it's time and they can't settle the mind, it's like, those are the things that you actually end up needing.
Yeah.
Is you need your mind to settle.
Yeah.
But when you have that, and you spend that time in yourself.
Yeah.
I found that you have more time doing anything else you ever want to do.
You have
more
clarity.
time, more clarity, more productive.
Yeah.
So I would encourage you to try it, but
yeah,
awesome. You know what? Thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate you and your sharing.
Hey, my pleasure.
And is there anybody you want to thank just before we close this out?
Honestly, just happy to be here. Probably just Dexter, to be honest, just for him getting me here, right? Which is, you know, I'm happy to be here and to be kind of, opening up a little bit. And,
totally.
And yeah, it's been great. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So I'm not sure if you've seen the others, but we always end the hug. So bring it in.
Oh yeah.
So thanks again for listening to this podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you learned something from it. I know, talking to Deryk, I did, and it was such a great discussion. We actually were able to discuss a little bit more about this off camera, which is so cool. Just a few takeaways from that. We talked about filling up your cup first and putting emphasis on back into your own life. And like you said, part of that recovery process, and not just for him, but for anybody, whether you're, a recovering addict or you've got some issues going on in your life, or if you're just trying to better yourself as a person, or maybe you have some anxiety, or maybe, whatever it is, these are things that can apply to so many people. So putting that attention back into your own life, going to the gym, meditating, talking about it, the more he talked about it, the easier these things got. Find a group of people that you can lean on and just share how you're feeling with that. Aren't going to judge you. And like he said at the end, even removing yourself from the scenario if you need to help yourself move forward, which is, I think, so powerful. So thank you again so much for listening to this podcast. Appreciate you. I appreciate you taking time out of your day to listen to this. Again, I'll ask is that out of this, because it's something I love doing, I just ask that you, if you enjoyed it, share it with somebody. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Subscribe to the Spotify, because it helps grow it. It helps give momentum not only for me, but for people on the being guests here, and it encourages them to share. And then now they're out wanting to go do more for others as well, which is such a beautiful thing. So creating this snowball effect. So if you enjoyed it, again, subscribe, share with a friend. And if it's the first one you listen to, go back and listen to some of the other episodes, because I know you'll enjoy those too. So thank you so much, and I'll catch you on the next one.